Hi everyone, Deborah Roth here at Spirited Living. Lovely to be back here with you to explore the magic and the mystery and the power of the Divine Feminine and all of her manifestations, all of the ways that she represents the best and highest qualities of the feminine, collaboration, cooperation, empathy, compassion, all of those things that we so sorely need in our world right now. You can, after this video goes up, I always post it to my YouTube channel, and there's a little eye in the corner if you go there tomorrow. Just look for Deborah Roth on YouTube, and it'll give you a whole big thing about, not whole big thing, it's not that long, about what the Divine Feminine is about and what the qualities are and all that kind of stuff. So, delighted to be here with you. And this week, once again, I discovered, I maybe have heard vaguely of her, of a goddess who I was not familiar with. And turns out I'm not alone. She was one of the sisters of, or the sister really, of Isis, who actually, Isis is right up here on that top shelf. I don't always have her in these videos, and I actually did an Isis video, I think, which again, you can see on my YouTube channel, last July, I think a year ago. So the story with Nephthys is that she really is one of the oldest and most revered of the goddesses, and Isis is better known for a bunch of reasons, which I'll give you an idea about. She is the goddess of death and rebirth, of the night, of the dark, and that was actually in her first, I think, several thousand years in the Egyptian pantheon, if you will. That's her association was that she would help Set, her brother slash husband, fight off the demon whose name starts with an A. The demon who was trying to prevent the evil serpent Apophis, who tried every night to murder the sun god Ra, but Nephthys and Set fought the creature off every night so that the sun could continue to rise. And that gives you a hint of one of the ways that we can use her. We can use her archetype, the metaphor of who she is in modern times, and we'll talk about that in a minute. The reason I picked her for this week is that one of the places that I love to go to find out what different goddess festivals are going on is a wonderful site called the Mother House of the Goddess. And there, Kimberly, I think her name is, said that February 18th was one of her feast days, or 19th. And nowhere else did I find that. In fact, one of the places that I looked said actually that September 11th, which is kind of poignant, that it should also be, because as she evolved in her mythology and her honoring in Egypt, she became more associated as being a goddess who guided souls into the afterlife. So I'll give you a little bit of her mythology. She is, and I will also mention that because of her connection to guiding souls to the afterlife, she is a wonderful one to call on if you've lost somebody in the last year, someone dear to you. And she will watch your souls once they move to the afterlife. She lives in the east, which is where the sun rises, and that, as I said, that's a symbol of the hopefulness that she represents. You can light a candle on her behalf if you're feeling hopeless or in the dark. And when are the dark times going to be over? Which a lot of us may be feeling right now for personal and global reasons. And just remember, and I say this often in these videos, while there are some associations with her in this time of year and in July, anytime you tune in to learn about her, to call on her, you can call on her anytime, depending on what your needs are. So I always think it's a great idea to keep some themes sort of in your back pocket, if you will, for when you can reach out for support, from these archetypes that are so powerful. So let's see. She is the daughter of Geb and Nut, who were the prime, sort of like the Hera and Zeus of Egypt, and the sister of Osiris, Isis, and Horus, and the sister and wife of Set, which I mentioned earlier. And she's probably best known in the myth where it's said, and again, there are different versions of this, that she seduces Osiris, who is married to Isis, and she does this because she apparently is barren, is not able to have a child, and neither is Set, her husband, who they're so fascinating. I really wish I knew more about it. So any of you Egyptologists out there, please reach out and let me know, fill me in on some of these details. So Set was so angry that he murdered Osiris, and many of us have heard of this myth of Osiris being murdered and then dismembered, and Nephthys was regretted doing this. She was very remorseful, and Isis traveled all around the countryside to find all the pieces of Osiris to put back together again, because she could do this as she was a goddess. And Nephthys actually helped her to do that. They were very close. So that's like the 25-cent version of the Osiris myth. That's really pretty well known. And then, but prior to that, as I said, she was part of the myth that worked with Set, who was a good guy back then. Somehow he evolved into a not so, an evil god. But she was the one that helped to make sure that the sun rose every day. So she evolved in her time. Now, the images that I have of her, this is one from, she's not in this book, but those of you who've been with me know that I love the Goddess Oracle, Amy Sophia Maranshinsky, and illustrated by Rana Chanto. This is one of Rana Chanto's images of Nephthys, with, interestingly enough, with a total solar eclipse in the corner, and she's shown with the wing of a hawk. She was believed to be, one of her symbols was the hawk, was the sycamore. Hawks were associated with carrying the souls to the dead. And in fact, let's see if I can find it quickly. It's so much fun learning about her, like I always do. There were temple people priestesses who, hawks of Nephthys, were the professional mourners who would who would support you in your mourning of someone that you lost. Now, this is the other one that looks kind of more Egyptian, if you will. And she shows on her head, she's the goddess of the house. It's interesting, it doesn't necessarily mean the personal house that you and I think about. It's the house of the world. It's the house of the gods. And you can see the pillars that represent the house of the temples of the gods. And her name actually translates into mistress of the house. And she's usually shown with a hieroglyphic of house on her crown. The enclosure that you see there may refer to the courtyard that's outside of a temple. And she is a protector of, as we know, protector of the souls of people. But also, interestingly enough, she was an air and ether, connected with the air goddess. But at the same time, through her connection with Isis, she helped to rise the Nile and bring nourishing water. And so she's connected to water as well, which makes her also a protectress of women in childbirth. So she's got lots of interesting associations. And I just found it fascinating that she evolved the way that she did, and yet still is able to maintain so much of her symbolism, both in the early side of being a bringer of light, a savior of light, if you will, and then evolving into this place of, showing how to bring harmony and order to the world, which was what the Egyptians really embraced about the Osiris myth. So that's that's as much as I'm going to tell you right now about Nephthys. Please, go find out more about her. She's really, you'll see the spelling of it in my description of this. And what occurred to me, and I think I only did it a couple months ago, but the chant that occurred to me that I thought would be so beautiful to share with you to close out our time today, speaks to coming from the dark to the light, and speaks to being protected, being held and taken care of. And it's from a wonderful album called Fire on the Arrow by Shelley Graf, who's a beautiful chant leader and writer. And it goes like this. We hear your cry deep in the night. You're not alone. We'll hold you tight. Deep in our hearts, wrapped round your soul. Open your heart and be made whole. Sing it one more time, and I will include the words in the YouTube description as well. We hear your cry deep in the night. You're not alone. We'll hold you tight. Deep in our hearts, wrapped round your soul. Open your heart and be made whole. Isn't that beautiful? So allow yourself to be made whole by embracing the hopeful, light and dark energy, reminding us that we need both in our world, light and dark, day and night, what she represents, what Nephthys represents with her sister goddess Isis. Thanks for being with me, and look forward to connecting with you soon. Namaste.